FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and today is 7/23/20. Ever wonder why prescription drug prices are so high? Well, I wonder about it too. There's a reason. Wonder why the U.S. doesn't make many of the drugs that we need to treat COVID-19? Yeah, I think about that too. And what can we do about it? How do we bring production back on American shores? Well, when you want to find the answer to these things, you need to go to an expert. And we are really pleased to have Dr. Salvatore J. Giorgianni Jr. with us. Dr. Giorgianni, you're a doctor of pharmacy, senior science advisor to Men's Health Network, and so many other things you've done. We're thrilled to have you here. Hey, I'd like to know your opinion out there on what you think of these high drug prices, what you think of the outsourcing to other countries that often do not have your best interest at heart. Well, Dr. Giorgianni, it's great to have you on here. So why do drugs cost so much? Even the generics that have been around for decades, the prices all seem to be going up on them.
Well, thank you for having me on to talk about this really important health and safety issue, as well as an issue of national security importance. One of the reasons that we are at peril now about the safety and the supply, consistency and supply of the U.S. chain for pharmaceutical products and any medical products, including personal protective equipment and even things as simple as hand sanitizer and over-the-counter medications, because so much of our capacity has been pushed offshore in an effort to lower the pricing down to the commodity level. As with any pricing scenario, why is the price of some item the way it is? It's a whole range of reasons, everything from the regulatory requirements on those prices to the way that the prices move through the supply chain from ex-manufacturer to medicine cabinet. And we have, unfortunately, a very convoluted process of paying for and valuing pharmaceuticals, which frankly has been corrupted by insurance companies and pharmaceutical benefit management companies and this crazy system of rebates, which I think has taken the free market aspects out of pricing. So what we are faced with now is that over the past 20, 25 years, we have pushed manufacturing out into many of our geopolitical and geoeconomic rivals to the point where they control the access to our medicines, and they just don't have the regulatory framework, or they just don't care to really produce quality, consistent products. I'm hearing from colleagues and friends that if we did decide to bring things back to do as much made in America or made in the USA, or at least made in the EU, where there are good regulatory safety checks and good friendly supply chain systems in place, it would take us about 10 years to do that. So it took us 25 years to break it down, but it's going to take us at least, many believe, 10 years to build it right back up again.
All right. So let me ask you a question here. The pharmaceutical companies, now, obviously, they're going to have to pass laws forcing them to bring production back on shores. Can we trust them if we agree to relax regulations to advance this goal? Can we trust them that they're going to not poison humanity and really mess things up?
I go back to a quote attributed to President Ronald Reagan: "Trust is verification."
Yeah.
You know, I do know that there are excellent, wonderful people working in the pharmaceutical industry, but I also know that industry is made up of individuals, and at any point there can be lapses. So I believe that the reason we can develop a regulatory framework that is the envy of the world and modeled by those who really care is because we have certain safeguards in there. We have person in a plant, man in a plant, regulations. We have approvals from every step of the process. I think what we need to see, though, is continue to have that regulatory oversight, but there has to be a very important, very high-level approach to streamlining it to meet modern-day needs of the industry and the ability to monitor things off-site. The other regulations, the Food and Drug Cosmetic Act is over 100 and some odd years old, and I think the last time there was a total revision of what we did was when Dan Quayle, if anybody can remember this, went back and was tasked to do a total top-to-bottom review of FDA regulatory processes. And a report was issued, and many of the things that were recommended were done, and many things weren't. But if I'm not mistaken, from the drug development, production, and regulatory oversight perspective, that was probably the last time that there was a good top-to-bottom review. We've moved way ahead of that now with automation and manufacturing and standards and testing and things such as the internet and artificial intelligence. So my learned opinion is that there's probably a way to do it, but you've got to set to the task of doing it. Right now, it's just been easy to push it all offshore. And that has had, well, I won't say disastrous consequences, but very, very difficult ones that if we don't fix them soon will be disastrous.
Yeah. And so we've got a system here that's kind of insane. Basically, the U.S. pays to develop all these drugs. You, the consumer, pay for it in the form of higher prices, and then everybody else gets the discounted version of the drug. Is there something wrong with that picture?
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Financial Survival Network is brought to you today by Orin Resources, a junior exploration company with the appetite of a major. It's hot on the trail of the next globally significant discovery, creating enormous potential upside for you, the shareholder. Orin is one of the most aggressive exploration companies pursuing high-grade, scalable gold and copper deposits, and has a premier 7-project portfolio, including its 2 flagships, Committee Bay in the Arctic and Sombrero in Peru. Orin's unparalleled technical team and highly experienced management has a history of success in advancing and monetizing exploration assets. No wonder Orin's been called one of the best in the junior exploration sector. Orin trades on the TSX and the NYSE under AUG. To learn more, go to orinresources.com. That's AURYN resources.com.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Oh, terribly wrong. It's not just the U.S. consumer, but to some extent, it's also EU and UK consumers, not the UK's out of the EU. The difference is in the United States, we don't have fundamentally government-subsidized pharmaceutical industry, but they do have it in many other countries of the world. So I do think that part of the solution is what you would say to anyone. You're not paying your fair share of NATO. You're not paying your fair share of this security program or that security program. So I think there has to be some meeting of the minds in the G7s, the G8s, whatever it is now. It may be the G3 after all this COVID stuff happens. But you have to have a meeting of the minds of the leaders of the industrial movers and shakers. This is how we're going to flatten the curve of the spiraling cost of research and development. Because, Kerry, the easy targets have already been met. The harder targets to meet are costing more to develop and then test these products. And sometimes if you do it very quickly, as you see with these vaccines and some of the medicines to treat, the cost is even higher because you're scaling up. And it's not just higher in terms of dollars, but opportunity costs in terms of manufacturing. So if you're making X, you can't necessarily make Y and Z at the same time, depending on how your lines are set up. So your manufacturing lines are set up. So, there's lots of things that float around here. But if we are if we had any hope of making the way drug research for these newer, more difficult to study, develop, and more difficult to manufacture products to come out, we really need to take a close look at how you do that from an industrialized country standpoint. The U.S. can't hold it alone. But today, the European Union, the Asian financial strong countries, they have had no desire to do it. They love the system the way it is.
So one of the things I've heard is that the FDA needlessly increases the cost of drugs. And one of those things is the requirement of efficacy. So not only do you have to prove the drug's safe, but you got to prove that it works. And what's with the FDA in terms of them tying up drugs that should come to the market faster, and in terms of them just really being an impediment to new drugs hitting the market and making them more costly?
Well, if we had 3 hours for the program, I could probably explain it. But I don't think we do, at least if we want to do it. But I think that you absolutely have the right philosophical approach to development of these products. You have to have both the efficacy proven in a reasonably large, diverse population set, and you also have to have the safety standard there. What FDA has tried to do in the past 3 decades or so are to use surrogate endpoints, which are not the actual endpoint. And it's very simple to understand. When you treat high blood pressure, the surrogate endpoint that you use, what you're trying to prevent when you treat high blood pressure is cardiovascular death, or death related to high blood pressure, hypertension. But what you use as a marker to see if a product or a drug or an entity is going to manage that and bring it down is the blood pressure management over a period of time. That's the simplest example of a surrogate endpoint. When you're dealing with cancer treatments or rheumatoid arthritis or seizure disorder or mental health disorders, particular problem in men, by the way, they suffer more from suicide than we would like, and it's almost 10 times as high as it is in women. And so we need medicines there as well. But when you look at those surrogate endpoints, how complicated is it to do it? And then you can't wait 10 years for an outcome. So, part of it, I think, is, again, this was something that was addressed in the Quayle report on FDA. How do you do this better? How do you not create unnecessary steps in a regulatory process? And so I think a lot of it is regulatory accretion on the fundamentally sound idea. And then the last notion is, what do you do so that you can bring things out into the market and still maintain diligence? That, I think, we have an absolutely fabulous mechanism in place since the early 90s, which is ongoing monitoring, post-approval efficacy and safety studies that FDA levies on products that they want to bring to the market quickly, so that the sponsoring company is required to monitor in a more intensive, more structured way the response and the safety aspects of the drug. So I think if you combine all of that, but again, it's going to take this harmonized approach, and there is a vehicle to do it, is the International Harmonization Committee of regulatory authorities in the EU, some of the industrialized countries in Asia and the US and Canada, North America, that have a platform, a forum to create these kinds of, I won't say streamlined, but more efficient regulatory safety checks. But you just can't do it without them. That would be, I believe, a very bad move.
All right. Well, I think you've given us a lot to chew on here and a lot to think over. If there's 3 things that we could do real quickly to remedy the situation, what would they be?
First of all, is regenerate the International Harmonization Committee work so that we can come to some sort of ability to address both the disproportionate burden that some countries share for development of new products. The other is maintain a focus on market-based solutions for drug and medical product pricing, price indexing, price fixing, government intervention, crazy Byzantine systems of rebates, but just good old-fashioned market-based contracting that's transparent. And then the third is start now to rebuild the capacity in the U.S. and the EU that has been lost over the past 25 years. So, in 2021, when my kids are a little bit older, they still have access to a good supply of medications.
And that makes total sense. We really appreciate you coming on with us, Dr. Giorgianni. And if people want to find out more about you, is there a website, Twitter feed that they can follow you on?
Yes, you can. Men's Health Network, which is the organization that I'm representing in this conversation, has a very important website with lots of information. It's at www.menshealthnetwork.org, www.menshealthnetwork.org, and lots of stuff up there.
Excellent. Hey, any questions or comments for the good doctor or myself? You can email us always, kl@kerrylutz.com. Our Twitter feed's at Kerry Lutz. Our Facebook page is Financial Survival Network. And of course, our website, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Sign up for our free newsletter. Doctor, really appreciate you coming on. Good luck, and good luck getting the message out.
Thanks very much. It's a very important one to have.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.